You know, it was a period in time when Kate Jackson, before she was on Charlie's Angels, was one of the busiest actresses in the ABC Aaron Spelling universe. After doing the second Dark Shadows big screen release to great aplomb, she became kind of a scream queen in a series of horror movies, which also led to The Rookies and led to Charlie's Angels. So today we're going to be looking at the first of her three big ones. Of course, later on was Death at Love House and Killer Bees. But this movie, probably the best title of the 1970s, and it's hard to believe this was a Aaron Spelling movie. Satan's School for Girls. Now, Satan's School for Girls came out in 73, made for TV horror film, directed by David Lowell Rich, and produced by the great Aaron Spelling. The film has been named as one of the most memorable television movies of the 1970s. In this one, a mysterious person seems to be chasing student Martha Sayers, Terry Lumley, who drives to her sister's lakeside house in L.A. The same day, the police and Martha's sister Elizabeth, played by Pamela Franklin, find her hanged in the living room. The police rule her death as an unmotivated suicide, but Elizabeth refuses to believe this and investigates further. She decides to visit the exclusive academy that Martha attended, the Salem Academy for Women, hint hint, despite warnings from Martha's roommate, Lucy Dembro, played by Gwen Guilford. Under the assumed name of Elizabeth Morgan, she enrolls at the college where she's welcomed by her classmates, Roberta Lockhart, played by Kay Jackson, Debbie Jones, played by Jamie Smith Jackson, and Jodie Keller, played by the future Charlie's Angel, Cheryl Ladd. Elizabeth notes several strange occurrences but postpones further investigation. Debbie has an outburst in class. The feared headmistress, Mrs. Jessica Williams, played by Oscar winner Joe Van Fleet, is worried about the influence of the new girl. When Lucy commits suicide, Elizabeth resumes her investigation. She becomes intrigued with a painting of Martha in a dungeon-like room. Debbie, who painted it, is terrified of the painting and claims she invented the background, but Elizabeth finds identical setting in a cellar on campus. When she is startled by a man with a straight razor, Elizabeth flees. The next night, Elizabeth returns to the cellar with Roberta, who is now suspicious as well. They locate a hidden room in which they find the dead body of Debbie, who early that evening had tried to leave the campus. Elizabeth suspects that Professor Delacroix, played by the great Lloyd Bochner, is responsible, considering his eccentric and mildly sadistic behavior. Elizabeth bursts into his office, finding him in a deranged state with a gun in his hand. He fears something supernatural is stalking him, and he jumps through the window. After running for some time, he ends up mired in a swamp where he's beaten with sticks by several students, including Jody. Now, meanwhile, the otherwise popular Dr. Joseph Clampett, played by Roy Fiennes of Invaders fame, reveals to Williams that he's responsible for all the murders. He orders the headmistress to evacuate the school. Elizabeth and Roberta are unaware of the evacuation. They discover the body of Delacroix, who has been brutally murdered. Elizabeth and Roberta turn to Williams for help, but she has gone insane. When they are unsuccessful in calling the police, Elizabeth and Roberta go to the cellar to find a gun. Instead, they find Clampett leading a satanic cult. His followers, including Joey, believe that he's Satan incarnate, and Roberta reveals herself as his loyal servant. Elizabeth is able to escape when she sets the school on fire, and she takes Williams with her. However, the other girls stay behind. The entire building is then engulfed in flames. Clampett, who's actually supernatural, survives the fire and is shown outdoors, where he mysteriously disappears, leaving only a patch of charred grass where he once stood, and of course a possibility of a sequel. Now, a very, very interesting movie that a remake was with the same title was released in 2000 with Kate Jackson appearing again, but this time as the headmistress. Now, music by the great Lawrence Rosenthal. Executive producer was Peter Dunn, and of course, Spelling Goldberg production with Leonard Goldberg on his side. Now, production locations including the Rock Store, Mulholland Highway, Cornell, California, King Gillette Ranch, Malibu Creek State Park, Mulholland Highway, Calabasas, California, and of course, 20th Century Fox Studios. Cinematography by Tim Southcott, with editors Brian Brunette and Alan Jacobs. 74 minutes. It did get an international release, but they did very good in the ratings. And it's, like I said, that was kind of the horror-filled early 70s, which had Kolchak the Night Stalker, Last of Dark Shadows, well put together. Now, why it really stands out for me, this is the type of movie where I know most TV movies like this were not shown in Canada. I don't think it would pass the ratings board. It's a very, very intense movie for, again, 74 minutes. It could easily be expanded. I'd like to see what was left on the cutting room floor. Now, considering that Kate Jackson, again, became almost a household name because of Dark Shadows, her from the decade itself in the 1970s, again, she made her bones also on the Rookies in that decade as well, and the other horror movies we'll talk about later on. So Kate Jackson, again, when Charlie's Angels started, she was pretty well, her and Suzanne Summers did enough supporting parts. Jacqueline Smith was the unknown factor, but of course, when Summers left, Cheryl Ladd showed up, so which was a very interesting. This is a very interesting movie, ladies and gentlemen, because there was an obsession with Satanism in the late 60s, early 70s in the U.S. and Canada, and this touched upon the trope. We can say that Aaron Spelling was a family producer. No, he was a tits and ass, and at the time, tits and ass and Satan. Like if you could have put in what do you call a beach scene involving Satan, he probably would do it. So this movie, I haven't seen it in a while, mostly in the French. I gave it a 3 stars out of 4. It's not my cup of tea, but seeing young Cheryl Ladd in there and Joe Van Fleet and Lloyd Bachner again, it comes across as a Fantasy Island mixed with a Dark Shadows episode. You don't know until the end who's real and who's fake and who's Satan, because you pretty well know by the end who Satan is. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our latest tribute to the Kate Jackson horror motif. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share.